Heyo, YouTube. It is Connor and Chris here with Metal Inside Me. Today's episode, we interview a hardcore band from Ashington, England called Contaminated. Yeah, Chris, what did we talk about in this interview?
Right. So we spoke to Contaminated, like you said, about their new EP, self-titled. We also spoke to them about what hardcore and metal in general is like in the UK, the stigmatization of being a part of metal culture, as well as everything that went into them becoming a band with a new EP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, pretty interesting conversation. We've done interviews. If you guys aren't too familiar with our channel, we've done interviews with people in multiple different countries. We got a couple other countries coming up soon. Australian band coming up next week, and it's really cool to get to talk to people in other countries and hear about what metal is like there.
And Contaminated gets the honor of being the first UK band that we've spoken to. So
That is true. That is true.
with all of that said, the timestamp is going to be in the description or on the screen or something for how to just jump right to the interview. But we're going to take a minute just to talk about this week in metal.
Chris, what's going on this week in metal?
Well, we got a new Era song, which was really, really good, called Snowblood. Awesome prog, right on par with everything that Era has done. And on the other end of the spectrum, we got another single from Fit for the King, which was not great.
That's disappointing.
It is. Fit for a King is historically a pretty great metalcore band. I liked God of Fire a lot. I thought that it was it's a simple song, but it smashes you over the head. It sounds a little bit too much like Wage War trying to be architects, but it still smashes you over the head. But unfortunately, it sort of seems like this record might might mirror the last Wage War record more than I'd like it to. Yeah. So I can't remember the name of the one that's like truly not very good.
Pressure.
But the second, are we talking about?
Are you talking about Fit for a King or?
Yeah. Fit for a King. The second Fit for a King single that they released, can't remember what it's called. Sounded very generic, really didn't do much for me at all. This new one they released is called Annihilation. It's not bad. It's better than the second single they released. It has much more in common with God of Fire than with that, but it's just not special.
That's the whole thing. Okay, so we can start talking about the current state of metalcore based off what you just said, because I have found that if you just release another typical metalcore record, it doesn't do anything anymore. There's been so much of it. I mean, that's why I listened halfway through Wage War's new record that actually came out a year ago today. Pressure. I made it like halfway through and I was just like, all right, I'm done with this.
Yeah, it's just not, it's not memorable. It's not special. It doesn't hit you in a significant way. And I just, it's back in 2016 or 2017 I mean, the single came out in 2016 and the record came out in 2019, I think. But when Architects released Doomsday and then the Holy Hell record, I mean, that record is so specific to them and what they were going through, and it hits in such a unique way that it's completely pointless to try to emulate that emotional experience, because it has so much emotional weight and everything just attached to it by default, that trying to emulate the sound and map it onto something else just isn't going to work. And yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it's how I felt about the Wage War record when they released that single Low, which was a good song, but was definitely just a copy of Doomsday or Hereafter. And then that whole record was just boring. And I feel like that's what we're going to get with the Fit for a King album. Their vocalist, Ryan Kirby, said that apparently the singles are quote unquote a little more radio friendly, and then the rest of the record is just super heavy. And that might be true, but that's also almost exactly what every metalcore band says before they release a dud. Like it reminds me a lot of what Asking Alexandria was saying before they released their self-titled record. Which isn't terrible, but it's just like whenever you start having to reassure people that guys, this is going to be heavy. I promise. It's going to be heavy. It's probably not.
Corey Taylor.
Yeah. Gosh. But we ought not speak of Corey Taylor lest we be struck down by the internet. Like,
lest we be struck down by the god of fire.
Oh God! Next thing you know, like Tech Nine will be at our door with a Tech Nine, just like ready to seek vengeance on anyone who made fun of his friend.
Yeah.
We like Corey Taylor. We like Tech Nine. I'm just joking,
Oh, yeah,
but I was not a big fan of CMFT. Must be stopped.
No. Oh, and I don't know if you picked up on what I was specifically referencing was Corey Taylor reassuring everybody that We Are Not Your Kind was going to be brutal and Iowa heavy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. And then it wasn't. Even though it was a good record. So that's that's not perfectly analogous, just in that we did end up enjoying that record, but it does ring true to the fact that whenever somebody has to like be like, oh man, this is going to be heavy. I promise this is going to be really, really heavy. It's not going to be.
You've got to let it speak for itself.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Release a song like Demolisher and
yeah, just let it go. And
yeah. All right, Chris. Oh, sorry. Did you have something?
No, go ahead. I know you have a question you want to ask me.
Yes, I do. Okay, so we have talked about this question we have had for maybe like a couple years, okay? And the question is, what is the next big thing in metal? In the early 2000s, you had new metal. Then eventually you had metalcore and then deathcore. And like, we've been really into metal for a couple years now. And so we're like, okay, what is the new thing? What's going to be the new big thing? And I think it is not only modern hardcore, but modern hardcore infecting the other core genres.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely true. And I would I would also make the argument that there's a lot of new metal resurgence that can be picked up in a lot of the biggest hardcore bands, except for maybe Knocked Loose, which is doing a very straightforward, like heavy beatdown style of modern hardcore with metalcore influence, of course.
Yeah.
But do you know who Diamond Construct is? Yeah, so they just released a new record. They're kind of in the same vein as Alpha Wolf. They also happen to be from Australia. Australia is just producing a ton of great modern hardcore and metalcore music right now. And it is really interesting. It's like a fusion of modern hardcore and modern metalcore, bands like Currents, but then also like Knocked Loose and stuff, with like Korn and like older, like sludgier new metal stuff. And it's really, really interesting. You should go check it out. I can't remember the name of the new record, but the band is Diamond Construct, and it's super interesting. Like, go listen to the single Psychosis. It's not my favorite song ever, but it's very emblematic of the way in which we're getting like this new metalcore, new hardcore, that is really, really interesting, and I think is going to be the pervasive metalcore sound in the next couple of years before we move on to something else. Probably something that involves like a reinfection of prog, just because prog isn't going away. Like gent is just getting better and better. It's becoming more and more musical. It's not disappearing. You're getting fewer zeros but more strings on your guitar.
True.
And the other thing that's happening right now that's not exclusively a metal thing, but is definitely metal adjacent and impacts folks like you and me who are fans of the genre, because it has a lot to do with Epitaph Records, is the whole like true emo rap pop punk fusion that's going on right now. Obviously it started several years ago, and it's become more and more pervasive now, to the point where an obvious example is Machine Gun Kelly is just straight up doing pop punk now. I don't especially like it. I don't like it. Just doesn't do that much for me. I think it's totally fine if you really enjoy it, because I cannot deny that a couple of the songs he's released are basically just Blink-182 songs. I mean, he's playing with Travis Barker and it sounds like it. But that's seriously a thing that's happening. I mean, on Epitaph they have Lil Lotus, who is like an emo rap type dude, but he's also fronting, I can't remember the name of the band, but he's fronting like like basically like just a straight emo band, where they're doing like some post-hardcore influenced,
Mm-hmm.
emo rap influenced, emo stuff, which is, you know, cool. Again, it may not necessarily be my thing. You know, I tend to lean in a more hardcore slash prog direction, which is why I tend to talk about those genres so much.
Yeah.
But I do recognize that that is becoming like a serious thing, and it's really interesting from a, not necessarily marketing, but from like a, scene growth perspective, because obviously metal rock, even just like rock, is completely dead, and metal hasn't been anywhere close to mainstream in some time. And I think that the resurgence of pop punk, through some of these guys who are doing emo rap or just doing hip hop in general, and introducing like pop punk elements, like there was even some of that on, the posthumous, Juice World record. Um, Even though he was working with, you know, traditionally pop oriented folks like Marshmello and Halsey and stuff, there was still some pop punk influence on that.
Yeah.
um, and I think that that's going to be a thing too. um, and so who knows. So I think those are the two things that are going to be happening. I think that in the heavier side, you're going to have a this like new metal tinged hardcore metalcore sound that is going to invade the entire genre. Um, I mean, and this is, you know, you've got bands like, what is it called, Justice for the Damned or something like that, where
Yeah.
it's very, very heavy. Like, but instead of having like this deathcore sound, it's more of a hardcore sound with
Mm-hmm.
lots of like, heavy deathcore vocals over top of it. I think we're going to start seeing a whole lot of that, you know.
It's funny you brought them up. Our Australian band we're interviewing next week. They compared themselves to Justice for the Damned.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I'm very much looking forward
Yeah.
to getting ready for that interview then, because Justice for the Damned is doing some sick stuff.
Heck yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Go
last
on.
point I want to bring up is, could we describe this period of metal, since hardcore is infecting other subgenres and changing? Is this another wave of a post-hardcore? Like, could you describe this as like post-hardcore part two, even though it's like totally different sound, but it's almost the same principle that's happening?
I mean, in terms of like the evolution slash departure principle, sure. Um, in terms of like a linear progression from the post-hardcore sound, I would say no.
Oh no, yeah.
Um, yeah,
Post-hardcore didn't turn into this. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe. You know, there's nothing especially reactionary about it, but there wasn't really anything especially reactionary about the original post-hardcore movement. Um, and yeah, I mean, kind of, maybe. It's interesting because, you know, what happened with hardcore music was they started introducing sort of melodic elements, right? And that was all the way back in the 80s. And that ended up becoming emo music, or just like post-hardcore music in general. And then what's happening now is we're seeing this sort of like re-injection of new metal elements, a re-injection of like a, um, just a very raw hardcore sound, fused with deathcore, death metal stuff,
Yeah.
typically in the vocals. So
Yeah.
that's pretty. I mean, I think all that stuff is sick. I'm glad to be alive right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much sums it up. And if you guys have any items you want us to talk about before we do our interviews in this section of the podcast, you know, throw down your questions, throw down your topics you want us to talk about in the comments. And without further ado, we are going on to our interview with Contaminated.
All right. So we're going to kick it off by having you guys go around, introduce yourselves, and tell us what you do in the band.
Okay. I'm Wal, and I'm the bass player. I'm Matty, and I scream and write a bit of shit now and again.
I'm Aaron, I play drums. I'm Jordan, and I'm the only one left, so obviously I play guitar.
Awesome.
All right.
We are Connor and Chris. We are with Metal Inside Me. And so why don't you guys just kick us off and tell us a little bit about how your band got together? How did Contaminated form?
Good shout, Matty. You might want to say that one.
I've been in bands like since I was you know, like 15 years old. I'm 25 now. Got to a point where I was just sort of like, I really want to get something started again that's a bit more sort of serious. And last year, like, we sort of all got together and started writing tracks and stuff like that. So we've all sort of known each other like quite a while, and then reaching out as musicians and stuff all got together and pretty much just started that way. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of interested in what genre you guys think you fit into, because we've sort of classified you as modern hardcore, but obviously you guys got a couple of Guns N' Roses posters on the wall. So we're just interested, like, what?
That's a very difficult question.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. Well, obviously we've got hardcore elements, heavy hardcore. We've got beatdown elements. We've got thrash metal elements. We've got bloody metalcore. So we'd just like to say heavy metal. Really, kind of covers everything we do. We don't like try and stay into one.
Yeah, we're never going to stick to one genre.
Yeah.
We're not going to hold ourselves for that. We are going to do what we can and stand out for doing that.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Yeah, so obviously everything has been on lockdown, or at least it has been here. But with that said, we're wondering what the hardcore or metal scene is like where you guys are, or if there even is one.
There's definitely one like it now. Yeah.
More so now than there has been.
Yeah.
It's not big by any stretch.
Yeah.
I think it's big as you move closer to the bigger cities.
Yeah.
We're from like a town outside of a major city.
Like, you wouldn't catch a metal band on, like, in town where we are. You'd sort of have to travel like 15 mile outside of town to Newcastle. And there usually is like hardcore metal shows and stuff on. But it's not like as massive as what it used to be. You don't necessarily get as many big household names coming into town as what you used to, if that makes sense. It's sort of like quite underground. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, I suppose.
Yeah. And I guess I'd like to expand this question to kind of give us a feel for what the UK like is in general with metal and hardcore.
Ooh. It depends whereabouts in the country you are. I guess.
It depends where you are and who you ask. Like, personally, I don't think it's great.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the smaller bands, you get some gigs. Not a lot of people show up. You tend to be, they obviously we're from Newcastle, so a lot of the gigs that we get offered is in Newcastle, in one bar or one venue. And there's not a lot of people go. And when you get up to the bigger bands, that it's like they quite often miss Newcastle.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not great for in my eyes anyway.
I know.
I say all over, like,
Yeah.
like, if you want to see a good big headline band, you are going down south.
Like Leeds, Manchester.
Manchester,
I mean,
London.
5-7 years ago, you'd have bands coming into Newcastle like Parkway Drive and Muir, like big household names, like I was saying earlier. But now it's like sort of quite average, like
London,
smaller
Manchester.
bands. If you want to see bands like that, you've got to go down south. So
And it's rare that you get them bands that actually just dedicate to going down the UK, because we'll get bands that have come here before, and then the following year they'll come back, but they will just say we're doing 2 or 3 shows, and it is all down south, because up here where we are, like, it's like
it's in the middle of nowhere.
it's like if we go down south, we will get more people. If you come up here, you're limiting how many people are going to come and see you. So
it's all about ticket sales, isn't it?
So really, artists will get a lot of them. All these bands will just go down south because more people will just go down south. So
Down south.
Down south, I know.
The metal scene is down south. just to clarify that, just to sort of condense that a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool, guys. We always like to ask the people we talk to about what metal and hardcore is like in the regions where they are. But with that out of the way, let's talk about your record, your new EP. Could you guys talk about the songwriting process? We'll start there and then just talk about the record at large.
For the first one, basically Matty wrote all the songs, everything. And then that came to me, I think next, was it? And then added my bits, and then went to Aaron, checked over the drums, and then went to Wall and laid his bass lines down. That's basically how we tend to work. Like someone will write a song and then bring it, and then other elements. It's not like we don't get together and sit with blank slates, because to be fair, we just end up getting pissed and drinking, and that's nothing gets done. So
doesn't work as well for it. If we all get together with no idea what we're doing, we're not very productive, because it is hard. Like you said, if you get one person who would have the idea, write a song, give a feel for what that person wants from the song, we all do actually just contribute and come, like, we'll bounce better that way.
We are all quite like-minded as well, so it's not like someone will bring a song and we'll go, nah, that's shit. It's like, we'll actually work on it and make something. That's basically what happened for this.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my next question is, did you guys kind of conceive your sound as originally being hardcore, and then just your natural influences kind of brought out these other elements? How did you guys find your sound, find your lane?
100%. The original intention was to be a hardcore band. And then as soon as we made music, it was like, there's a lot of Metallica influence in there.
Parkway. Fucking.
Yeah.
Well, we're all like such a varied amount of music, so it's hard to just like put myself in a box where we're gonna say we're gonna just do this, because we could pick up a guitar one day and we might end up writing something that's totally different to what we intended to actually go out with. So
yeah, it's interesting you bring up Parkway Drive, because I definitely heard a little bit of Winston's voice in yours. That throatier, deeper growl that you're doing, I think, is really, really sick in hardcore music, especially since a lot of the vocals we're hearing now are a little bit more yelpy. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I cannot stop.
Arf, arf.
I definitely there's no way on earth I would be doing vocals if it wasn't for Winston McCall, just to put that out there.
Yeah. So were there any, and you may have already answered this question, but were there any specific musical influences you guys had in mind while you were making this new EP?
I think all of us had something different in mind.
We just wanted it to be like powerful and sort of convey the message we're trying to like put across, I guess. And
as a lot of my writing influence comes from Metallica.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I also wanted to ask you guys about your approach to lyricism, because when we're talking to hardcore bands, a lot of folks take their lyrics very seriously. Some people don't. And so I'm just interested in your approach to writing lyrics for these songs.
It depends how the songs are written. Like, if the songs are written first, then I've sort of got to find myself in the right vibe and space of mind to be able to write them, if that makes sense. Like, I couldn't just decide, I'm going to write lyrics for this one day, because I like to put everything I can into them, if that makes sense. And feeling like shit is definitely one of them that goes into it. So if you're feeling decent one day, you're not going to write some fucking, like, lyrics that are about feeling crap, or, like, if that makes sense. So it just totally depends. Like, I've got to be in that frame of mind and sort of, like, in the headspace of, like, I'm going to write lyrics because I feel like shit today, or like whatever, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Although if you guys wanted to become the first happy hardcore band, I'd be totally down for that.
I mean, we would seriously be fucked.
Definitely.
So, I forgot when you said exactly when your band came together, but have you guys had a chance to perform live before the world got shut down?
Like three times. That's it. Twice in the same bar and once in another club in the same town in Newcastle. Like,
the last one was it was a competition. I don't know if you've heard Bloodstock, the festival.
Yeah.
They do a competition called Metal of the Masses, and they do it in various towns across the UK, and it's basically a battle of the bands, and the winner plays Bloodstock. So that had just started. We'd done the first leg. judge basically said we won by a mile, and then everything shut down. So that's,
still a massive shock to all of us because in that competition, everyone was a very similar sound of music, and we were like a sore thumb sticking out.
Yeah.
We're like, I think
it was all
one of our gigs
rock.
where we've stopped and started a song. We're talking too much on stage, just messing about, not being unprofessional. We're just literally just having a good time. We're giggling at each other and all sorts. People were fucking starting songs that wasn't the right songs. So to even when we come off and it was like, oh yeah, you've won this leg, we were like, oh wow. Okay.
That's the thing. There was that many people there, and like everyone, leathers, jeans, Iron Maiden shirts. It's like we're not getting through. So just we'll go have fun with it and see what happens.
They're like, oh yeah, Contaminated first base. Like, fuck.
Yeah. So on that note, what are your goals for the band? I know that's a broad question, but I'm always interested in whether or not bands have concrete goals or just some abstract goal that they're moving toward.
Just fucking play, tour.
Yeah.
Like play places where bands haven't been and have that sort of model award shit basically, and have fun.
Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. My dream is to tour the States. So. That's what I'm personally working towards. Anything past that's just a bonus.
Get what we can and keep pushing as long as we can, and pray to God that we can just keep going and going to the point where we can actually go and tour places where people don't go and places where we all want to go out. Like personally, like John says, he wants to do America,
Australia, shit like that. Like.
Let's be real here. We want to make money so we don't have to work. It's an element. It's in there.
It's against what everyone would do. They want to go as far as they can and do what they can, but again, it's that. I don't want to do that. I want to do what everyone else does, but we want to stand out and be better.
Yeah, us too, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. So next question is, what has been the most difficult thing you have experienced as a band so far?
Getting together and not
getting a decent sounding bass tone for a start.
Probably that, and the main fact that Wall's a paramedic and he lives 3.5 hours away. Ooh. So trying to get together and trying to learn songs and record and trying to book gigs around when he's free, it's just.
Yeah, well,
that's probably the hardest part.
Difficult it is.
We'll all work normal jobs. I mean, obviously aside from lockdown and stuff like that, but we're sort of got to organise things when we're all free. So that can be a bit of an issue sometimes. But aside from that, we're alright. Like.
Yeah. So on the other hand, what is the best / most meaningful thing that you guys have experienced as a band so far?
Trillions for me, like.
Yeah.
When we did
competition, yeah.
When we did competition, like we brought whilst a load of people to come, 2 people turned up, and then which that we knew of, and then like you recognise a couple of the people because you see these people when you go to gigs yourself, and then when we come on, a set group of them all just come forward, and it was like we didn't know any of them apart from one.
And they were all moving about and shit.
Moving about, singing the words to Acceptance, and it was just like, we've only played 3 shows, so we must be doing something alright if we've already got a set little group to a gig that was not.
It wasn't publicised that much, really.
No, we're laid back towards it. We're just like, yeah, we're going to play this. And
if we win, we win.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we didn't even expect to come out of the first heat winning because... Again,
the judges hadn't even called it and he was already out parking the car.
I was in the car park, I had everything in the car, so when we come out saying we won, I was like, you're all taking the piss of me, but... Look, like,
I think the highlight for me at the minute is we've just done a line of merch, and I remember driving along somewhere and there was 2 people just walking along the street wearing our shirts who I'd never seen in my life. I was like, that's cool. That is fucking cool.
That's the thing where we live. It's a small place as well, so once we do well, we're we're gonna do fucking class.
It's funny you bring that up because I wanted to ask specifically where you live. How does the average person react when you tell them you're in a metal band?
Yeah, exactly. That's a laugh at you.
Does
go
that hurt your throat, mate?
We're just talking about that before.
Yeah.
Do you play the guitar with the strings or the ones with less strings? No, most people just kind of like, oh, that's a good hobby, you know.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's like you spend how much on recording? You spend how much on a pedal?
Yeah. So, is there any like cultural stigma where you guys are around metal? Because I mean, just speaking from my personal experience, you know, Connor and I work normal jobs too, of course, and like I can't even imagine telling my coworkers what I do for a hobby, which is, you know, play a 7-string and talk to metal bands, because that cultural stigma definitely exists here, and so I'm just wondering how that is in the UK. Because I recognize that we're in the American South where things are, you know, more quote unquote conservative. And so people are a little more hostile to metal than they might be in England.
Yeah.
I think it's about the same.
It
So,
really
yeah,
is.
it really is. Doesn't matter what you do, you know, if you're a singer and you make pop music, if you, I don't know, make country music, you make bloody ska, reggae, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you want to try and make a living from music, no one's going to appreciate it.
Especially here. I mean, MC is like a massive thing. Like, it's the Northeast version of rap, which is like rave /
Excellent
rap. It's pretty fucking crap, really. Like, but that's what's popular here. So metal and anything like that is just totally overlooked. So if you were to mention that was your hobby, it would just it wouldn't slide well. Like,
I think it's probably worse up here. Like if you were down south in London or something,
it's a bit more.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like if you go like I'm going to be a rapper, and someone's like, yeah, go for it, and that happens because it's obviously a big scene for it. But now you get no support around here, like not at all.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I have to ask, how the UK feels about one of me and Chris's favorite bands, Architects.
Oh, yes,
absolutely.
Yes. That's it.
Yeah, because you know, over here in the States, all of our bands are just trying to be architects. So, you know,
I noticed a lot of bands all over, like, but yeah.
Tell them, stop playing 1 and 2
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So what are some of your favorite artists or records right now? Just a fun question.
Oh shit.
Mine's always going to be Killswitch Engage.
Yeah.
That's so sadly as it
depends what we're talking about here. We're talking about metal or we're talking about real.
Whatever, yeah, whatever.
In terms of metal, definitely Killswitch, but we've got a lower.
In terms of metal, I'd probably say any Metallica, literally any. System of a Down, and
even Saint Anger.
Yes. I think it's a great album.
Hold it
just
back.
not.
Hold it back.
Like it's a shit Metallica album, but it's a great album. Yeah. And Taylor Swift has a new album. It's fantastic. I would put that out there.
Yeah.
For me, at the minute, I'm really loving Oasis and like indie sort of music. But
who's he?
I know. which is that's what I mean. Like my music taste just like goes from one extreme to the other all the time. I like to keep it varied. So
yeah.
Bands that we all love. Foo Fighters for me. Massive Foo Fighters fan.
Westlife.
Wait,
it's not wrong.
Well, that's true.
True.
Nah, Foo Fighters for me. If I could beat any man, I'll beat Dave Grohl. I would. Right. That's a drummer and a half.
Fair play. Fair play.
Just saying. I thought while getting separate people, just it.
Awesome, guys. So I think we are at the point of the interview where if you guys want to bring up anything that we haven't covered yet that you want to talk about, if you want to plug anything or if you want to ask us any questions, feel free. The floor is yours.
I don't know. Obviously, the EP's out, so
Yeah.
we'll be
dropping another one this year.
Yeah.
Another EP. 5-track in it. And then an album
Something
next
like
year,
that.
hopefully. So good.
Yeah. There'll be some merch coming up as well, which will be going public anyway soon.
We'll be shipping that wherever anyone wants it. So
Yeah.
Sweet.
How do you guys feel about the EP? What's your opinion on it?
What's that real song other than accepting some disconnected? Yes, now listen, this what kind of you have listened to.
So I'll kick off this question. Chris, feel free to answer after me if you have anything else to add. But so I really enjoyed it. Me and Chris have actually been diving pretty deep into hardcore recently, and we've been interviewing quite a few local hardcore bands. And I've seen this trend, exactly what you're doing, which is you're taking kind of a bass hardcore sound and making it a little bit more metal, but you're adding unique things to it. And that's something that me and Chris are really, really enjoying right now. And the screams are pretty brutal. And the instrumental is just, I'm in love with that beat down hardcore music with, oh man, yeah, really liked it. And the breakdown on No One Gets Out Alive is just brutal.
Oh, he's listening. He's listening.
Yeah. So I've listened to your record twice. Both times I've been in the gym, and it is absolutely perfect. Like, it just makes me want to move. When I listen to your record, guys, I just immediately want to hear you guys perform live. It's just one of those things where it definitely has that hardcore energy where I just want to like flail around like an idiot, you know? Also, Will, you definitely did get a good bass tone. Yeah.
Ball.
Yeah.
Ball with an O. It's a weird name.
Sorry. Yeah. Got that bass tone. It was great. I thought you guys are doing some excellent beat down stuff. I can definitely hear some of the like broader metal influence, like when you're talking about Metallica and stuff in the guitars. I could definitely hear that in some of the more energetic sections. I think you guys released the record at just the right time, I think is like my overall stance on it. I think it's a really good hardcore record, and I think it fits in perfectly with the current landscape of modern hardcore. And like Connor said, those vocals are just absolutely brutal, which is definitely something that sets you guys apart, because, you know, hardcore in general, we've sort of accepted that it doesn't necessarily have the greatest vocalists. So yeah. So you guys are killing it, man. I thought it was really good.
That's awesome to hear. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that Jack Daniels? That is from Tennessee, my friend.
And we have another.
That's not for me.
Nice.
That is made just like 2 hours or so from where me and Chris are.
No,
yeah, it's absolutely true.
Me and Wall plan on getting out there next year if we can. I mean, it might seem weird, but we're big into sort of country music.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Luke Combs. Yes.
Luke Combs.
Oh, it's mad about Luke Combs at the minute. So yeah, we're planning on getting out there at some point. So yeah.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you guys ever make it to the States, we'll make sure to go stock up on Jack Daniels for you. It's,
All right, welcome to the bar.
We'll show you how we drink in England.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, guys. Well, I think that just about sums it up. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No, yeah. If there's anything else you guys want to touch on, feel free to stop me. But otherwise, thank you guys for talking to us. You've been awesome. And obviously, links to your EP and all that stuff will be in the description. Let us know when your merch comes out, and we'll plug a link to that as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sweet, fans.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, man.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
It's been fun.
Thanks, guys.
I'm
Absolutely.
dying for a piss.
I
Yeah.
On that note, we'll see ya.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah.